The air in the courtroom was thick, heavy with the weight of 1,000 unspoken words, and I could feel it pressing against my chest like a vice. My fingers gripped the edge of the wooden bench, the grain biting into my skin as the judge's gavel hovered, poised to shatter the fragile illusion I'd clung to for years. My wife, Laura, sat across the room, her face pale but composed, her hands folded delicately in her lap as if she were merely waiting for a bus, not facing the unraveling of our lives. I wanted to scream, to demand how she could sit there so calmly when the DNA test results were about to be read aloud, exposing the lie she'd woven around our daughter, Sophie. My daughter. Or so I'd thought. It started 6 months ago, a faint crack in the foundation of our marriage that I'd dismissed as paranoia. Laura had been distant, her laughter rarer, her eyes darting away when I asked about her late nights at the office. Just work, she'd say, her voice light but sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. I'd nod, swallowing the unease that coiled in my gut, because love makes you stupid. Love makes you ignore the lipstick smudge on her collar, the faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine, the way her phone buzzed at 2 a.m. and she'd slip out of bed to answer it in the bathroom, her whispers muffled by the hum of the fan. I loved her too much to question it. Laura, with her chestnut curls and the way she'd hum off-key while cooking dinner, had been my anchor for a decade. We'd built a life. Our cozy house with the creaky porch swing, Sophie's finger paintings taped to the fridge, our Sunday mornings tangled in bed with coffee and laughter. But doubt is a slow poison, and it seeped into me drop by drop. The first real clue came at Sophie's 5th birthday party, a chaotic blur of balloons and screaming kids. Laura's coworker, Mark, showed up uninvited, his smile too wide, his hand lingering on her arm as he handed her a glass of wine. I watched them from across the yard, my heart thudding as Sophie ran to him, calling him Uncle Mark, with a familiarity that made my skin crawl. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Sophie's dark curls, so like Laura's I'd always thought, kept morphing into Mark's jet black hair. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind spiraling. Was I imagining it? Was I the fool who saw betrayal in every glance? I told myself it was nothing, that love meant trust, but the seed was planted, and it grew thorns. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. The way Laura's smile faltered when I mentioned Sophie's eyes, a deep brown that matched neither mine nor hers. The way she'd changed the subject when I talked about our future, her voice tight with something I couldn't name. I wanted to confront her, but fear held me back. Fear of being right, fear of losing her, fear of breaking Sophie's world. So I did something I'm not proud of. I took a strand of Sophie's hair from her brush, a few strands of Laura's, and sent them for a DNA test. I told myself it was to silence my doubts, to prove I was wrong. But deep down I knew. The results came in a plain white envelope, and I sat in my car outside the post office, my hands trembling as I tore it open. The words blurred before my eyes. 99.9% probability of non-paternity. My stomach lurched, and I barely made it to the trash can before vomiting. Sophie wasn't mine. The little girl who called me daddy, who clung to my neck when I read her bedtime stories, wasn't mine. And Laura had known. I drove home in a daze, the world outside the windshield smeared like a bad painting. When I walked into the house, Laura was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, her movements precise, almost mechanical. "You're home early," she said, not looking up. I wanted to grab her, shake her, demand why she'd lied, but my voice came out soft, broken. "Laura, we need to talk." She froze, her knife hovering over a carrot. "About what?" Her tone was careful, like she was stepping around broken glass. "Sophie," I said, my throat tight. "She's not mine, is she?" Her eyes met mine, wide and glistening, and for a moment, I thought she'd deny it. But then her shoulders sagged and she whispered, "I'm sorry." The confession hit like a punch, stealing my breath. "Ooh," I managed, though I already knew. "Mark," she said, her voice barely audible. "It was a mistake. A stupid, drunken mistake." A mistake. The word echoed in my head, mocking me. A mistake had cost me my daughter, my trust, my life. I wanted to hate her, to scream, but all I felt was a hollow ache. "How long?" I asked. "Once," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "It was one night 3 months before I got pregnant. I didn't know. I thought she was yours. I wanted her to be yours." I didn't believe her. Not fully. But part of me wanted to, because the alternative was too much to bear. We stood there, the silence between us heavy with guilt and grief, until Sophie's laughter broke through from the living room, oblivious to the wreckage of our world. The weeks that followed were a blur of arguments, tears, and sleepless nights. Laura begged for forgiveness, swore it was a one-time thing, but the trust was gone, replaced by a gnawing suspicion that ate at me. I couldn't look at Sophie without seeing Mark's shadow. Couldn't touch Laura without feeling the sting of betrayal. I moved out, renting a cramped apartment that smelled of stale cigarettes, and filed for divorce. But the real battle came when Laura tried to claim Sophie was mine in court, fighting for child support, clinging to the lie even as the truth unraveled. Now in the courtroom, the judge's voice cut through the haze. The DNA evidence confirms that Mr. Daniel Harris is not the biological father of Sophie Marie Evans. The words landed like a guillotine, final and merciless. Laura's composure cracked, a sob escaping her lips as she buried her face in her hands. I should have felt vindicated, but all I felt was loss, for Sophie, for the family we'd been, for the love I'd thought was real. The judge continued, outlining the financial and legal fallout, but I barely heard him. My mind was on Sophie, waiting at home with her grandmother, unaware that her world was about to change. I'd raised her, loved her, been her father in every way that mattered. Could I walk away now, knowing she wasn't mine? Could I forgive Laura, not for her sake, but for Sophie's? As the gavel fell, I looked at Laura, her face streaked with tears, and saw not just the woman who'd betrayed me, but the mother who'd fought to keep our family intact, however flawed her methods. The truth was out, raw and ugly, but it wasn't the end. Not yet. I stood, my legs unsteady, and walked out into the blinding sunlight, knowing the hardest choice still lay ahead. Whether to hold on to love, or let it go.